So have you ever uh, gone to a funeral and kind of stepped away from the funeral, kind of reassessing what's important in life? I recently attended one, and um, you know, after you go to one, it's a great opportunity to reflect and see really life boils down to really basic elements of what's most important in life. And at this one I had just recently went to, I was very shocked, I guess, is how differently people handle their grief and pain. And I'm not saying one way is better than another. Um, some people could show up and be very stoic, have very little emotion. Others could have an outward, just total meltdown, breakdown. And I speak as one firsthand, having gone through this mourning and grief. And I say there's not a wrong way. I'm making no judgment, but there might be some additional factors involved with the emotion that some people don't see or don't want to talk about. Some people might be very private with how they handle emotions, and and that might work for them. I'm not a therapist. I'm not here to tell you how to handle it. I would say it would be beneficial to get help if you go through that. I think it's very helpful. But because somebody is not expressing the emotion that you think, are they some sort of cold-hearted reptile alien jerk type? They didn't care about that person. They're not showing the emotion. He might even be tempted to judge this person. Well, if I had just lost a son or a daughter, a wife, I would certainly act this way. Refrain from doing that. What if you just finished spending years and years of your life caring for an aging parent, spending 24 hours a day tending to their needs, taking care of them? Let's say even after work, after you put in your 8 hours, you um, went on drives and you saw more places in the place you live than most people see their whole lifetime. And you never got tired of spending that quality time with that person, showing them love and kindness and patience. What if they repeated themselves constantly and they had dementia and they were constantly asking, where you are and if someone's coming down and, you know, what are we doing today and what day is it and how difficult would that be? And then after it was all done, you look back and you had no regrets. You did everything possible you could do for that person. You did what nobody else could do or wanted to do or pay the price to do. And so let's say you show up to the funeral and instead of sadness and grief, you feel joy, peace, and happiness. You did everything possible for this person, and their quality of life was so poor that it was a blessing for them to die. And let's say you watch other people show up to the funeral and they're overwhelmingly sad and filled, maybe even with regret, thinking, what I should have done. Well, I shouldn't have done that. I should have forgiven. I should have forgotten. I should have made amends with this person. I should have mended that bridge. I wished I hadn't said certain things. I wished I could take them back. And now they're gone. Don't live your life like that. If you have something that you need to deal with somebody else, deal with it. Talk to them. Make amends. Do your part. They might not accept it. Do your part. Don't live life with regrets. Don't regret how you treat people. Don't regret how you spend your time. Don't regret how you spend your money. Don't regret how you live your life. Don't regret who you spend your time with. You will stand in front of the Lord at that great day and give an accounting of how you spent your time, how you spent your money, who you spent your time with, how you used your gifts that He gave you. You will be absolutely astonished and completely overwhelmed by some people that did so much with so little they received. Don't be ashamed of how little you accomplished in life. It will fill you with regret. Maybe there's even a mathematical model. If you look at all that the Lord has given you, say, He has given me one great gift, and I recognized it, and I used it, and I improved it, you know, or He gave me many gifts, maybe 4 or 5 great things in my life, and I used those, and I proved them. It was a profitable investment by God. Or maybe you were given a gift and you buried it, or you used it for the wrong things. How great and terrible will that be, depending on what you've done with your time and your talents? I just finished a book uh, about Helen Keller's life. What an example. How many gifts was she given from God? How little physically she was given nothing. I mean, she couldn't see, she couldn't hear, she couldn't speak. I mean, let's just think about that for a minute. If you close your eyes, if you pretend like you can't hear, and because of that you can't speak, what kind of world would you be introduced into? Very dark, a very difficult world. But I'd like to spend a minute and go over Helen Keller's timeline and what she did with very little. In 1880, she was born June 27th in Tuscumbia, Alabama. 2 years later, after an illness, she lost her sight and her hearing. And because of that, she never learned how to speak. When she was 7 years old in 1887, Helen's parents hired Anne Sullivan, who had just graduated from Perkins Schools for the Blind, to tutor Helen, and began teaching Helen that objects have names, and she used her fingers to spell them. So she'd hold out her hand and she would use some sort of sign language to spell different letters, and it took a long time before she could associate even a letter with an object. Very, very difficult years of patience and practice and learning. Helen learned to communicate via sign language, to read and write in Braille. She would touch the lips of her teacher. She'd have a finger on her lips, finger next to her nose, and one on the vocal cords. And she would even, in some cases, put her fingers in her teacher's mouth to help her understand how she was using her tongue to create different words. Talk about sacrificing your body for a student. In 1990, so when she was 20, she attended Boston schools in Boston and New York, and she matriculated to Radcliffe College. In 1903, she published her first book, The Story of My Life, when she was 23. A year later, she graduated cum laude from Radcliffe, becoming the first blind person to earn a Bachelor of Arts degree. So she was a pioneer. She did things that no other blind, deaf, dumb person had done. The first person to graduate from a university or college. 1915, she, already a vocal advocate for people with disabilities, she co-founded the American Foundation for Overseas Blind to support World War I veterans blinded in combat. This organization later became the Helen Keller International and expands its mission to address the causes and consequences of blindness, malnutrition, and poor health. In 1920, she helped found the ACLU. In 1924, Helen joins the American Foundation for the Blind. She serves as a spokesperson and ambassador for the foundation until her death. 1946, she begins touring internationally on behalf of the American Foundation for Overseas Blind. expanding her advocacy for people with vision impairment. In 11 years, she visited 35 countries on 5 continents. 1956, she wins an Academy Award for a documentary film about her life. 1961, she suffered a stroke and retired from public life, but a few years later, she was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom by President Lyndon Johnson. In 1968, she died. But during her lifetime, she learned how to read French, German, Greek, and Latin in Braille. And I would like to share with you a video of her talking about her teacher and what her teacher did to help her create a world for her that she didn't have before. A world of darkness is the world that she lived in. And so, just a second. A world of darkness is what she lived in. And this a teacher of hers helped expand and open a brand new world for her that she'd never had before. Very difficult. Very difficult world.
How you would feel if you were suddenly stricken blind today. Picture yourself stumbling and groping at noonday as in the night. Your work, your independence gone. You have heard how from the fingers of another, a ray of light from another soul touched the darkness of my mind, and I found myself, found the world, found God. It is because my teacher learned about me and broke through the dark, silent imprisonment which held me that I am able to work for myself and others. The opportunity.
Her teacher was able to break through that darkness that held her hostage because of the work that she did with her and for her. How much joy did Helen's teacher receive from her work to free another soul, to bring her into a new world? Do we have that opportunity in different ways to help others? How did Helen do so much with so little? Her weakness became her strength. What some people would view as a curse from God became a blessing to her and a shining light of what can be done with so little. How did she do it? She never stopped trying to improve herself. Can you imagine the thousands of corrections a day that she was being exposed to by her teacher? And I'm sure there was some frustration, but she worked through that. She didn't let excuses get in her way. Well, I can't see, I can't hear, I can't speak, I can't do anything, I can't function. And this is the lady that said she found life so beautiful. Do you have excuses? Well, I was born in a dysfunctional family. I was adopted, and so because of that, my birth parents didn't care about me. I wasn't born to a rich family. I have no options. If Helen can do so much with so little, why can't we do a lot with the gifts that God has given us? Make sure that we use our gifts that God has given us for the greatest good and live life with no regrets.